good evening, or good afternoon. My name is Marcela Villacorta. It's actually Marcela Danico now because I did get married recently. I am 24 years old and I'm working towards a Bachelor's of Science in Human Sciences with 3 different concentrations, and those being Human Development, Family Studies, Nutrition, and Health Professions. With that being said, let's dive into my personal history. Right around 18 years old, I moved out from my parents' house, and I, wanted again that sense of independence and clarity, but perhaps I was doing it the wrong way. I moved out and I started college with no direction of where I wanted to go. I knew that I wanted a degree in human sciences, or in the science area, but I didn't know and have a clear path of which way to go. So I dropped out of college after 20 credits in the first year, and I was being a very irresponsible young adult. And by that I mean I started drinking, I started doing habits that I'm not proud of today. But they've gotten me to where I am, and I've learned so much from those mistakes. I, started drinking, and in my family there are a lot of alcoholics, and I didn't want to go down that path. To me, I wanted to change my family tree. So, throughout that time, I was working at the Cheesecake Factory in Southlake, Texas, and I had a wonderful manager there, general manager, and his name is Lance Matthews. He became to be my mentor throughout those 2 years that I was struggling, living paycheck to paycheck with, $10 in my account. And he said something close to me that Bateman says in her article, where she says, only children who are allowed to make mistakes can become responsible adults. And to me, that kind of hit me as a wake-up call to, get out of my drinking habit and slowly start to recuperate all those mistakes that I had made and begin to make new ones, such as, thinking about my future goals, my aspirations, my, college degrees, and what I really wanted to get into. So, along those 2 years, I developed a very hard work ethic, and I became stronger than ever, I feel like. I also came to a huge life realization, and that was that education equals success. And in my mind, I knew this all along. My parents had, instilled this in us, and still to, that day, I didn't know which way to go. I had no clear path, and the drinking habit got in the way. But slowly and soon enough, I started to replace those drinking habits with new ones, such as rock climbing. This is in Clovis, New Mexico, where I live now. I also developed hiking, and that was in Palo Duro. This one right here is in Bar Harbor, and I developed a love and passion for yoga and meditation. And believe it or not, I am meditating at the edge of that cliff. Some people find that I'm a little bit too adventurous and a risk taker, but I love it. I love adventure, and I love a good experience. I also developed a passion and love for snowboarding. This is in Sandia Peak, just this last spring break. And golfing. I golf everywhere I go. And this was actually in Maine. And the reason most of these pictures are from Maine is because my husband's from Maine. But anyways, let's continue. And this is another point that I'd like to make, is that moving to Lubbock definitely brought out that I guess difference that I had between the old me and the new me. It brought out my identity. If I would have never moved to Lubbock, I think I would have never developed and truly found that passion for health sciences and human sciences that I have now. And also I would have, never met and married the love of my life. So this is just a little bit about my life's trajectory, and I'm going to describe first how I got into this career option, and and describe also my concentrations. So I met my husband Caleb in 2017 when I moved to Lubbock. He is in the Air Force and is stationed at Cannon Air Force Base in New Mexico. Caleb and I shared so many of the same passions that it was difficult to not give the relationship a try. And we had so many of the same passions, so many of the same attitudes about life, so many of the same goals. We shared a lot of the same hobbies as well, so it was kind of hard to stay away from him. So throughout our first year at Texas Tech, we made 2-hour commutes during the weekends. We spent time talking about our future goals, playing golf, rock climbing, and just about a year into our now very serious relationship, Caleb got orders to move to Germany. So that would mean that he would be there for a total of 4 years and that we would be separate. I mean, I had no idea where our relationship was going to go, but a month into this, when Caleb received his orders, he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him and to go with him wherever life took him. So we were so excited and very happy, and we still are. So this brings me to my second point, is that I was no longer able to finish my nursing school. And I was, a little bit devastated at first, but I knew that God had closed this new door and closed this one and opened a new one to allow for a better opportunities. So I was going to look at it that way. So I gave up my nursing degree, and I immediately went to an academic advisor to search for online degrees. And the closest one that was, that could transfer most of my credits over was human sciences. So this was going to be my new goal, and I would finish this degree in about a year and a half. So after that, I was still kind of craving that patient interaction and direct patient care that I wanted out of nursing school. So I researched other opportunities that I could do along the way, and I came across a new life goal, which was becoming a physician assistant. And as a physician assistant, I would, obviously this would be going towards graduate school. So this would be completed after my 4 years in Germany. And I know it's a long way from then, and I know that a lot of things can happen and people can plan so many things, but plans sometimes change. But for now, this goal stays, and it will be completed after I return from Germany. But I'd like to continue on and talk about my concentrations and how I came to decide on those. So I chose Human Development and Family Studies because it has a lot to do with human interaction and how humans are, like what makes people the way that they are. And this would eventually lead me to understand people as, who they are, and as my future patients. So I chose also nutrition because nutrition is essentially what we are, and it kind of ties in with the human development and how people are brought up to, their way of their lifestyles and their nutritional needs. Another thing, my last concentration, is health professions, and this kind of ties in all the other concentrations together because it's essentially what I want to be. I want to be a health professional, and to be in that field, I feel like health professions will definitely prepare me for being a physician assistant, as it has many of the prerequisites that I need to get into PA school. And lastly, I'd like to follow up on another goal that I have, which is having a job overseas and gaining experience in the medical research field. After graduation, which is anticipated in about a year, I'd really like to start job hunting overseas and seeing what I can get into as far as research goes. So as an interdisciplinarian, I feel like I can definitely transfer this knowledge that I, gain in these next couple of years overseas and transfer them over to my physician assistant studies that I have pending. So we'll see where life takes me after that. I'd like to point out some of the most common threads in my life, and I know that the first common thread that I'm going to mention is not a characteristic of being an interdisciplinarian, but it's such a common thread in my life that I felt the need to include it. So, as a risk taker, like I mentioned in my previous slides, I moved to Lubbock and I wanted that sense of independence and I sent that sense of clarity in finding my true self. And I, as a child, I always, took the biggest risks and even involved my brother in them and got in trouble along the way. I also, like I mentioned in my personal history, I moved out on my own as a young adult and failed miserably. I was very vulnerable, but I knew the risks going in. So, as a rock climber, I think there's a little bit of a risk there. So, that's another thing that kind of, weaves my life together. Another thing that I like to point out is I'm always seeking for adventure. I'm always looking for ways to have fun and adventure and add a little bit of spice in my life, that adding that adventure on there. I feel like by being adventurous, it's led me to want to continuously seek learning new things. And by learning new things, I mean it's definitely a habit, a trait of being an interdisciplinarian. A new hobby that I've also acquired throughout the years is I've been able to read, and these are some of the books that I've read so far that have added true value to my life. The first book being Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. And on that one, the author really emphasizes on how effective you are and what personality and what things you put more emphasis on in your life. So that's really been an eye-opener for me. Emotional intelligence, another good one that's helped me define who I am as a person and my true identity. And then also IQ does not have to do anything with that. And last but not least, The Disappearing Spoon is just another book that I've read this year about chemistry, kind of bringing out the nerdy side of me. And last but not least, I'd like to talk about how I'm always looking for ways to sharpen new skills, those new skills that I acquire, and helping others along the way. And I feel like I've been very helpful to all of my other friends and also my husband, my sisters, in acquiring new skills as well throughout my whole career and throughout my whole experience of getting better. I've acquired new friends and helped them along the way as well. So these are some of the things that weave my life together that I feel like have always been a part of me and will always be. Dr. Tanner stresses about the importance of having a metaphor that can help people understand the concept of interdisciplinarity. And the best metaphor that I have come up with is thinking of interdisciplinarity in terms of systems of the human body. So each system has a particular cells and have a particular function, and that system correlates and communicates with other systems. So without one system, all the other ones would fail, and without all of the systems, well, we would be pretty much inexistent. So without getting too much into the science aspect of the metaphor, I'd just like to continue to how I want to create continuity within the discontinuities of my life. Recently, I've been practicing the concept of minimalism, and it's driven me to thinking and of a more deeper level of it, and that is living a life of purpose and value. And what I mean by that is that we need to be able to emphasize value and true value on the things that we have, on the possessions that we have, such as our phones, our computers, anything that has to do with our technology or anything that adds value to our lives. I mentioned in my last slide that I like to read, and the books that I read add value to my life. So things such as that, little artifacts that remind us of our past and little things that we have memories on, to have a true value on that and not emphasize too much on the materialistic side of things. That will definitely create a continuity that I like to have throughout my life, and definitely help me out through the discontinuities that are about to come. Another thing that I'd like to focus on is appreciating the little things, and that kind of ties in with living a life of purpose and value, because it places value on the little things that we have in time in life. One clear example of that is having coffee with a friend. A lot of times we don't value the time that we have with people, and we, emphasize more of like the things that we can buy with other people, or, the monetary value on things. And it's just not something that I wouldn't want to ever, emphasize on. I really want to learn to appreciate those small things. And by appreciating those small things, we are able to go through our life, I think, much easier whenever, things hit the fan. So, though, by appreciating the little things, I feel like also, whenever we get faced with the discontinuities of our life, such as, losing a job, having a baby, moving to a different country, or, going through a little bit of depression, it helps us out. Appreciating the little things helps us out in the long run by getting through those hard moments in life. And I'd like to end on one thing, and that is to live life like no one else, so later you can live and give like no one else. And that is a quote from one of my favorite role models, Dave Ramsey. He says that by emphasizing a little bit more of our life towards concepts and like these, and by living our life more humbly, we can definitely have a success in our near future. Thank you.